If entrepreneurship is seen as a useful tool in development, another situation where this is very evident is in the new Russia. In Moscow, as everywhere else in Russia, there have been incredible changes in the past few years. From the former Soviet Union and the Communist Party, the West has moved in at a breathtaking pace. Now the shops in Moscow bristle with Western consumer goods. Business is booming, it seems. New business is flourishing and banks have never had so many clients. The EBRD, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and the Russia Small Business Fund play a significant part in the changes taking place.
The Russia Small Business Fund is a $300 million fund that revolves over a 10-year period. It was set up to help Russia's transition. It has two main objectives. The first is rather obvious, and this is providing finance for micro and small enterprises. These were companies that, because of lack of banking history, lack of collateral, small size, and perceived high transaction costs, were left out of the formal financial system. These are mainly Russia's smallest firms and production firms that need longer-term money than was available in Russia, which was typically 1 to 3 months. And you cannot, of course, have a service sector firm or an industrial enterprise if you have to pay back a loan within such a short period of time. The second objective, which is totally interrelated, was to increase the skills of the Russian banking system to do credits at all, and to take in these small enterprises, to change the hierarchical structures of banks and get them to lend.
Our job consists in basically providing the physical infrastructure, finding premises together with the bank, finding loan officers, credit experts, usually not from within the bank. In most cases they come from outside the bank, training these people, bringing them clients into the bank together with those loan officers, installing all the procedures and mechanisms that one needs for small business lending. In that sense, there's a physical aspect of institution building, because there's a department where there was none before. It can even be as trivial as there being a sign that there is a microcredit department inside that bank. So that's point number one. The other part of institution building is that we change the institution that we work in. If you think of the bank as being the institution, then we add a new activity to their existing set of activities that they carry out.
The old way of doing things was perhaps nowhere more evident than in the previously closed town of Tula. Before perestroika, it was an arms manufacturing town, and changes have been dramatic and difficult for many. It's meant having to find a new way of living. Opening a new business has provided a livelihood for a number of people. One such new business is that of Nadezhda and Tatiana, who run a pet supply shop and breed dogs. The EBRD aims to target such businesses.
The program was started to create economic activity and to create employment. The former Soviet Union had 50% of all employment and income coming from the military sector, usually large industry. You had a very, very skilled workforce that was thrown out of their jobs, and they needed to start new activities. So this program was designed in a way to give them a start to do that. And in that way you could say, yes, it's helped people, it's maybe empowered them. They know that they can run a professional business.
That's certainly the case here. Nadezhda and Tatiana have a very successful business, but they needed the EBRD to enable it to develop.
We wanted our shop to develop, but we were short of money, so we made up our minds to apply to the bank for a loan. We applied to the first bank and they refused. The reason they gave was that we were not a proper firm, that we had no bank account of our own, and we were not a legal entity, so we left empty-handed. Then we saw an ad in a newspaper saying that the European Microcredit Programme gives assistance to small business. So we decided to try our luck again. We were given a loan and we used it to vary the assortment in the shop. The number of our customers grew and the shop became much more interesting. It's 3 years now that we've been working with the bank. We've just taken our 6th loan and we're very happy. We've also replaced our old car with a new one, which allows us to deliver more goods. So now we're thinking of opening a veterinary consultancy so we can give help to animals.
I think the main value of the program is its impartiality. That is, any person, irrespective of their nationality or material wealth, can apply for a loan and get it if they have a business of their own and if the business brings in a profit.
Если он занимается бизнесом, этот бизнес прибыльный. Скажем так, что бытует мнение, чтобы получить кредит, вообще, скажем, в типичной такой банковской...
It's often said that to obtain a loan in a regular banking environment, one must have connections or special qualities and approaches to borrow money.
Особенности или какие-то подходы для того, чтобы получить деньги.
We tend to serve quickly, impartially, and help those who deserve support.
И, скажем, тем, кто заслуживает именно поддержки.
Nevertheless, there are still many hurdles to get over before the EBRD will give out a loan. They have a very thorough vetting procedure, which some might say is very invasive.
First, we sent a loan application. Then, an EBRD expert came to us and started to ask questions. He looked round our shop. He watched us at work. He analysed our turnover, our property in the shop. He then went to our house. Of course, it seemed unusual to us that a bank officer would come to our home to see how we live and what we have at home. He even saw our nurseries, our dogs and cats. He liked everything and listed it all down. It was agreed finally that the bank would give us a loan. We didn't expect it to be so fast. It took about 3 days to get the money. We hadn't expected this at all. Since then we have been working with the bank on a basis of mutual trust.
For the bank itself, it must be good, because the bank doesn't know the borrower yet. It's hard for the bank to pay off debts if that's how it turned out. I believe it's a necessity, really, for the bank officers to go and see the way a borrower lives, his property, if there's collateral one might use later, in case of the unexpected. You never can tell. I believe it's right.
It's invasive by design. It intends to step in directly and explicitly wherever it feels that either the banks or the borrowers are getting something wrong, and it only admits borrowers on those terms. There is great disagreement amongst the microcredit community about whether it is necessary for banks and their sponsors to interfere in the projects which borrowers put forward, or whether borrowers should be left as the best judges of what is going to be most profitable for them. But the EBRD has decided that interference in order to improve the rate payment performance of banks is necessary, both in the behaviour of the banks themselves and in the projects of borrowers. And if that turns out to be effective in making better projects, then I guess the invasion is useful. We shall never know.